And welcome to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. This is part two of our interview with Matthew Grimm. We just couldn't bring ourselves to cut out any of the conversation with Matthew, and God forbid we cut any of our life-saving recommendations or opinions on pop culture. Enjoy the rest of the interview and stick all the way to the end for This Ohio Diner, a new song from Matthew Grimm.
Long story short, it felt like whatever I did, we couldn't break through. I couldn't get, any features on the local NPR show that was there to highlight local bands and stuff
Really?
like that. They didn't want anything to do with me. We just never found an audience. Maybe it has something to do with it's a college town, so there's turnover constantly. But even then,
Yeah, there's a youth factor, I would imagine. You would think that the politics wouldn't necessarily turn people off in Iowa City, but maybe, there's always a 20-year-old out there, I
I
suppose.
I think it might have. I think it might have, and the fact that when I said I was less than humble, I was still trying to do hangdog shows, and hangdog shows were when I say hangdogs, was still trying to do raucous, sweary
Yeah.
punk rock shows, and that didn't necessarily go over with the people who I there was a town councilman who had something to do with like putting like programming outdoor shows in the summer, right?
Mhm.
and and I think last minute thing for a friend, they said, hey, we need somebody to just do a little open mic, do like 3 songs to open a thing. So I grabbed my guitar, I went over to the quad and set myself in front of a mic, and this guy who was part of the entertainment committee of the town council or whatever said, hey, that was really good. You should do more of that. And I was like, I have a band in town. And he's like, yeah, I've seen your band. No, I'm not talking about
Really? Well,
Jeez.
all right.
it was a backhanded compliment in every sense of the word. And I'm not saying that's his fault. That's fine. He didn't like the loud aspect of my show, and apparently a lot of people didn't. And again, a lot of turnover. Whatever. I didn't become Dave Zola, or even I didn't become an institution that maybe I hoped I could be. And the net yield of it was I stopped taking shows, and I told the guys, I can't do this anymore because every time we go play a show and it's for 3 people, I'm letting all of you down and it's killing me.
Mhm.
It feels like I'm dragging you along on a pointless exercise for my fucking ego. And I know it kills you to play shows like this, and we've all done it. We've all done it. Every musician in the world has done it, right?
Sure.
But I'm the top of the totem on this thing, and I just feel I'm like I'm letting these guys down, and I couldn't do it anymore. It was wearing on because it's a reminder of failure, right? So why keep going back? Like I said, we would get some good opening shots, and that was great, but they never translated to, oh, that guy who opened for Dave Alvin is playing. It just
All
never
right.
happened. So this is maybe a little bit before my dad finally dies, and I say finally, that seems weird, but he got a good 7 years after the aortic aneurysm that was
Mhm.
that no one would have expected. This is 2011. The labor rising is happening here in Wisconsin, and at this point, I'm friends with the IFL people, with my local COGS union people, and we did what a lot of labor people in Iowa and probably Illinois all over
Mhm.
did when Scott Walker, when they introduced Act 10 here to bust the public sector unions. This was American Legislative Exchange Council template that they were sending to Michigan, to
Right.
Ohio, to North Carolina. It was all happening at the same time. We all knew what it was. So we started driving up here for Saturday, Sunday rallies, and just to help bolster the numbers. And and to see the town and the state turn out like it did was to a guy who had been writing, labor anthems. This was history in action. It was bad history, but this was
Mhm.
people responding in huge fucking numbers to bad history, and it felt like something. It was something that was joyous to witness in spite of the circumstances. Seeing
Right.
every stripe of people amassed, waving American flags and waving their locals flags, and everybody emblazoned with Union colors on bitter winter days. To drive
Were you
around,
going up to play in those circumstances, or just to march?
I was going up to March. And again, this is it was about three at this point. 151 wasn't full four lane, so it was about 3.5 hour drive from Iowa City up. So it was a thing, would come up here and then would go home. Or
Mhm.
if somebody had a friend to crash on, I'm 50 years old at this point or whatever, 40, 48. You don't necessarily want to be a couch surfing dude coming up for a labor.
Right,
So,
right.
so we're mostly driving back after these things. We just came up here to buffer the numbers and be part of it. Because I mean, everybody knew this was fuckery. This was not like, oh, we just need to let the state have more wherewithal to negotiate budgets, and
Right,
no,
right,
you're
right.
you're busting unions, you
Yeah.
fucks. And the time I spent around town, and you would see signs, "Proud Union Home" and "Kill Act 10," and it's all over the place. Recall Walker, and I didn't have anything holding me in Iowa. And the Recall Walker campaign started. I didn't want to do, I was done with music, right? I didn't want to do this anymore. I wanted to be a foot soldier and go where people needed me to be. And this is part of what we talked about, Chris, with losing that sort of strutting sense of self-esteem that makes you want to be the center of attention, that is sort of intrinsic to playing rock and roll. I was that, but part of this humility portion of the sort of devolution of my time of my music career in Iowa was just tell me, just let me go do something good, something I believe in, and I'll gather signatures. I'll man a booth. Tell me what to do in something that needs boots on the ground. And so that cemented my decision to just move up here, find an apartment, and be part of the recall effort. Being part of the recall effort, as we would find out in a later record, inspired some songs.
Mhm.
The labor rising itself inspired some songs, but I never looked for musicians. I never hung out with musicians. I didn't come here to play, right? So that wasn't really on any agenda. It was not like when I moved to Iowa and I was like, I can do some music here. No consideration of it whatsoever. Eventually wrote some songs, started playing around with some cover songs, and found this open source technology that I could put on a Mac, that with a simple interface and a mic, I could fuck around with these cool covers of songs. I still didn't know what I was doing necessarily in terms of production, but given all the stuff we've talked about and actually being at the table with Jason on making the last record, I kind of started intuiting my way through self-teaching this software. It's called Audacity, and very rudimentary stuff. So I started figuring out, well, can I actually record songs just sitting here in this space that I am in right now? Can I make music here? I got a cheap ass keyboard to play drums and bass with, and just started trial and erroring a bunch of stuff, and eventually had enough to make a record. I had to keep trial and erroring because I still didn't know what I was doing, but I was learning what I was doing along the way.
When did you start noodling around then before when did you find the software and start that process of kind of the comeback? I guess I call it.
So this would have been 2012, and that's probably the issue date of Songs in the Key of Your Face, right?
That sounds right. I actually can take a quick look. That is 2013. It came out, so that makes
2000,
sense.
so yeah, 2012. It's and when I say trial and error, I mean not reading manuals. I mean intuiting stuff from what I've seen done before when I've made records with other people, seeing what reverb does at this setting, seeing what reverb does at this setting, trying them out, undoing, a lot of undoing, Alt Z. Um, and eventually, can I make a bass line sound like a bass line using this shitty keyboard I got for $125? I can have a bass part. What can I do with the bells and whistles and the widgets in the software to actually make it sound like a bass? For one song, I fucked up and I couldn't, and but we're at a point where I could say to Mick Hargraves back in New York, Mick, I need a bass part for this song. Can you do it for me and send it over via the interweb? And we could do that at this point, right? Though, so everything coming together, kind of piecemeal, super trial and error. But all of a sudden, yeah, I am doing production with my crappy little setup in, my $600 apartment in Madison, Wisconsin. I didn't know initially if any of this would sound good enough to make a record out of it. So I started bouncing tracks off other people and I got feedback, do this, do this, do this. And you can see on that record that there were 5 covers, I think. And that's because how I started putting all this shit together and seeing if I could in fact do this was playing around with covers I'd always kind of wanted to do.
Right.
And once I sort of had them in shape and I had a body of newer songs to make a full-length record, I was like, I spent all this time on these covers, might as well throw them on there.
Who were the people that were your sounding board? Were they bandmates from New York? Were they relatives? Were they friends from Madison?
Yeah, Jason Lewis, who was the guy who produced the last Red Smear record in Iowa City.
Mm-hmm.
The Hangdogs guys, I'm sure
Yeah.
I'd bounce stuff off them. Mick Hargraves, who was in the last incarnation of the Hangdogs, but he has his own recording rig in Long Island now, and some just friends. Some
Yeah.
just my ex Steph has been an amazing feedback person and occasional producer over the years, and yeah, I mean that friends and colleagues. I should go back at some point and remix, and eventually you can do a little bit with mastering to take some of the edge off. But that said, Songs of the Key of Your Face, I think I would do it a lot better now. But we can say that about everything we've done, right?
Sure. That's always the artist's problem, right? Is when do you let go and let it go out in the world?
Yeah. All of a sudden I have this creative thing I can do without having to round up musicians to do it, right?
Right. Well, by my count, just looking at my library, it appears to me that since you've started, kind of this chapter, it looks like you've put out 5 separate albums. It looks like they're all like, well, no, I'm 4 maybe, because it looks like you released Woody Guthrie's 33rd Resolution as a single. That looks like one of the first things
Yeah.
you did
Yeah.
in this incarnation.
Yeah.
Is the most recent then Grim Reality Volume 2?
No, most recent is Dumpster Fire Days.
Dumpster Fire Days, which came out just in 2020. So right in the mid-COVID, mid-lockdown for everybody, at the beginning, maybe, I'm not sure. Do you foresee doing more of this? Can we count on more albums coming through in this kind of format?
Yeah, yeah. And I will say about Dumpster Fire Days, I went back and worked in a different way in terms of mastering, mix master, with John Speck, who was a musician, a longtime producer in Iowa City, kind of an institution there, who was the guy who had, the terrestrial studio where we went in and made the original One Big Union.
Huh.
Um, and he worked with me on the last three records, but I think we dialed the system in where I'm sending him not just wave files of a song, I'm sending him stems. So basically, he's getting bass, he's getting the drum kit, he's getting guitars, he's getting vocals, instead of just one big wave file, he's getting all these wave files and he's weaving them in. And that was how we did Dumpster Fire Days. And I think I think that's the mix. I think we've dialed in Dumpster Fire Days. We went from songs in the key of your face, which I would redo a lot of the shit I did on that, to Dumpster Fire Days, where I think it sounds like one of the best goddamn records I've made. Like,
Wow, really?
it sounds good, right?
Hmm.
The choices on it come out better. That's how it feels to me. 5 years from now, I might listen to it and say, like I do with freaking Easty Yesterday, what the hell was I thinking? But to me, that sounds like we've done our work collectively as a team, and we've gotten the process right. So that feels good. And yeah, I actually just emailed him a couple weeks ago, and I said, John, I have so much rage right now, and
Yeah.
I have been channeling it in a certain way. And I think we're going to have a new record to do. Are you up for it? And he said, hell yeah, I was just thinking about you because of all this.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I think you slid us a sample of that. There's a song that, as far as I know, I'm not. Maybe it's on SoundCloud now. I'm not sure. The Ohio Diner song.
Right.
Yeah.
That will be on the forthcoming record.
Yeah, that captures what you just described for me. And boy, does it, I think, as you may have mentioned in either an email or a text, there's a little bait and switch there because it starts out one way, but it turns pretty quick and it's outstanding. It is such a great song.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. And that made me even happier that we were going to talk to you.
Cable Street's on there too. I know it's a remake of Young Ones, but it's a great version of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use this opportunity, if you don't mind, to segue to our playlist because we're talking a lot about anger and protest. And Matthew suggested a playlist topic of fighting songs and however we wanted to interpret those. And Tom and I, at least I know I did, had a lot of fun with this. And
Yes.
For a variety of reasons, I have a whole lot of pent up anger right now. So we'll see if this playlist. So, Matthew, it's okay with you? We transition to talking through our playlist for this episode.
Absolutely. Just give me a quick break. Let's go.
Let's go. So for the we call these build a playlist interviews. So whenever we have a guest on, we have them suggest a topic. They will provide 4 songs. Tom and I will each provide 3, making a 10-song playlist. And Matthew came up with a great topic of fighting songs, and we use that term loosely. I mean, we'll start with the first one, which is Don't Drag Me Down by Social D. Any context further rationale for that choice, Matthew?
First of all, as a gigantic Social Distortion fan, I will note that maybe half their library are fighting songs.
Yes.
Both the Sonic Attack and to a lesser degree, Mike Ness's lyrics. But I like this song because he's an Orange County kid. He grew up with a bunch of asshole racists, and he became part of a punk scene that specifically rejected all that. And when he's saying turn around in this song, he's saying turn your back on the shit that this garbage part of our society wants us to be. And I love that. You're 18, want to be a man. Your granddaddy's in the Ku Klux Klan. Well, it's 2 steps forward and 4 steps back. this is a fucking fighting song.
Yeah, yeah. I generally listen to Social Distortion when I'm in a certain kind of mood. That's for sure. And you just described it. Chris,
Yep.
you want the next one?
I do. I went with a choice I made a couple weeks or months ago as a staff pick, but I've been listening to Racist Piece of Shit by Fishbone almost constantly. And there's a cool article in Rolling Stone. This goes all the way back to the 80s. Fishbone has had it out for Trump and his racism. And shoot, now I'm remember who's the five young kids who were accused of rape back in the 80s.
The Central Park.
Central Park 5.
Central Park 5.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and Trump put a ad out that we should reinstitute the death penalty. So, the long-standing hatred for good reason. It's a song that fires you up. They reference him specifically as the Mad Orange King or something like that. It attacked the Proud Boys and a whole long list of others. And I'm really happy that Fishbone is back. Been listening to them since the 80s as well. Great band. And they have another song, it's a little too slow. It's with George Clinton, Last Stand in America. Remind me a little bit of the song that Apollo Creed played in Rocky, but the sound itself, not the lyrics. But I needed to go with something a little more upbeat, so I went with Fishbone.
Yeah. Fishbone's another of those bands. Lots of fight songs in Fishbone on a Fishbone album, I think.
Fishbone was part of that dynamic petri dish of my college experience. They played the Walnut Park Block Party right down from my dorm. I think my freshman year, and in terms of a live stage show, holy shit, did those guys jump all over the stage.
Yeah.
Amazing band.
Oh, man.
Amazing band.
I have a few live music regrets, bands I haven't seen. That's one of them. Frankly, Hang Dogs is one of them. There's a short list of bands I'm pissed I never got to see live.
All right, Tom, that takes us to your pick, number 3.
My pick, third song of the playlist is I've picked Busting Up a Starbucks by Mike Doughty from Haughty Melodic. When you listen to it, before I got any background on it, it just feels anti-capitalist, for sure. And it's just what I found out in doing a little bit of research is that he wrote most of that song after he saw a photograph of a man kicking in the window of a Starbucks in Seattle. It was during the World Trade Organization meetings, I think in like 1999. So that image caused him to write that whole song. And that's, to me, again, just sounds like somebody that wants to start some shit.
The whole song is a surly strut.
Yes, exactly.
It is a surly strut. Love it.
That takes us to number 4, Matthew.
And number 4 is what, the Worker song?
No, The Guillotine by The Coup.
Oh, Boots Riley, the front man of The Coup, is a righteous man. You guys may have seen the very anti-capitalist movie Sorry to Bother You. If not, it's hilarious. It was his directorial debut as a film director, but he has fronted The Coup out of Oakland, I believe, for many years. Lot of full-on activist dude, not just prog left, like socialist left, and smart as hell. And so much of The Coup is fight songs. And I did have like, which one of these do I pick? But if you haven't seen this video, it's a piece of art in and of itself. It's a recreation of The Wizard of Oz, and in a stripped down, street production designed little fairy tale. And it especially in this day and age when rich people are absolutely re-engineering the society and we have no recourse in the matter, it seems. We have no voice, we have no say. It seems like this song is more profound and needed now than e'er it was before.
It's funny you mentioned that film. It's been on a queue of mine for ages. I still haven't watched it. I'm
See
planning
it.
to watch it soon. Now I'm going to watch it this weekend.
His name is Boots Riley. It's a pleasure to meet you. Never let they punk ass ever defeat. That's from another song, but Boots Riley kicks ass.
That's awesome.
All right. My next one drew some inspiration from reading up on Matthew, saw that Steve Earle, one of his influences. So I went with F the CC from 2004's The Revolution Starts Now. I like it so much because he caught so much shit for the John Walker Blues song
Yeah.
from Jerusalem. And then he just upped the game with this song and the next album, which I thought was great. Just if you haven't heard it, I'm sure Matthew and Tom have, but fuck the FCC, fuck the CIA, fuck the FBI, FUCK, everyone. So it's just a great, and I love curse words as much as anyone. Like I said, I just like the fact that he didn't back down at all with his next album after catching so much shit for the one for the album Jerusalem before that in 2002.
My pick, number 6 on the playlist, is from 1988. It's Prophets of Rage from It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. There's really nothing else to say. If you want a fight song, going to Public Enemy that's pretty easy. That's actually the first song I picked. I just decided to wait until my second choice to lay it out there.
Which brings us to Matthew's third song, the Workers song by the Dropkick Murphys. And I'm going to steal some of his thunder because it has one of the best lines. Cover of, but their cover is the primo fightiest version. Sorry to steal it from you, Matthew, but I love that line.
No, and this is in that genre of anthems, like it's an anthem, and I know that it's originally from a British folkie wrote this, right? Or I should have looked this up. It was a folk song before, and the Murphys making a Murphy song. It's wailing bagpipes with big fat Marshall stacks, and man, that Gale punk ethos is the absolute way to deliver this message because Irish punk sounds like it wants to fight from the get-go. And making it a Marshall the Proletariat anthem, that's the way to go. Their version just kicks ass.
Yeah, hell, sometimes Irish conversation on its own sounds like they want to fight.
All right. I will tie this one together. I had a tough choice, not for the group, but for the song. Desdemonas out of DC, punk band with quite a few influences. I was debating between The South Will Never Rise Again and Fascist Discotheque, which has the line, I don't want to be so fucked up in the USA over and over again. But I decided to go with South Will Never Rise Again for a couple of reasons. And one, Matthew, I'm going to put you on the spot again. You cited one of my favorite songs of yours, Hanea Path, and love the way that it's not a play on words per se, but the play on the song Dixie, look away from basically all the atrocities that are going on, which was a great way to flip that song. And also now living in the South, for Desdemonas to take that, the South will rise again, that it will never rise again, citing all these various atrocities through the years. And my favorite part of the song is after saying the South will never rise again, the lead singer goes, ha ha, and just sort of laughs at him. It's just a great ending to that song. They're recently discovered, and I'm really getting into that band. Awesome. All right, that takes you to Tom, or takes us to Tom.
Takes you to me. I have the 9th pick, and the song I picked is more about fighting. The song that I chose for the playlist is This Thing Working, which was written by Todd Snyder. I picked there's a live album that the Hardworking Americans put out that is, first of all, it's a great live album. Hardworking Americans is Todd Snyder's I want a rock and roll band to play with kind of thing. And they play a very rocking version of this thing working. If you heard him do it solo, it's awesome. It's actually my favorite version probably. But if you wanted to, for this playlist, I felt like I needed a little bit more up tempo. This song is just awesome. It's about the guy who challenges the bully to fight in order to save his buddy who is getting bullied, and then just challenges him every single day until everybody wants the bully just to stop. And I love it. You know, Todd Snider's great live, and of course he's got a bunch of live albums out. His presentation of that just by himself with a guitar is awesome. But the hardworking Americans really put on a good show with this one, and it seems like and I've never seen them play live either, as far as that goes. But it sounds like a fun song to be listening to at the time.
Good choice, and that brings us to the 10th and final song on our fighting song playlist. Matthew, you chose. I hope I pronounce this right. I've been practicing, but it's a hard word to say. Womanarchist. Anarchist. Womanarchist. There you go.
See?
Matthew, say that again.
Womanarchist.
By Bad Cop, Bad Cop.
I think they don't really say it in the song, right? So
No,
we
they don't
even have a guidepost. Bad cop, bad cop, bad cop, bad cop. I love them so much. And this is you know, every bit as much as the Fishbone song, you know, an anti-Trump anthem, an anti-Republican anthem, an anti-fascist anthem. And the video of it is glorious. It's their friends just in real life all singing along to this. There's a little girl in it with a little fake, you know, with a little tiny guitar, air guitar, and singing along with the lyrics, you know, and everybody's doing you know, lip syncing, but it all works so perfectly in this glorious chorus of "You do not control us, you will never control us," and I love it so much. And I love the powerful Riot Girl vocals need to be expressing this, and this is the absolute ethos of that. And I love Bad Cop, and I love Womanarchist.
That seems like the perfect song to end this playlist for sure. Before we do anything else, let me say that this playlist will be on Spotify and anywhere else that you stream your music. It will be labeled as a third song in playlist. We'll also, it was suggested to me that we should put the link in the show description on the actual podcast episode. So I'm going to try to remember to do that as well. But you can also find links to this playlist on our website, which is www.thirdsonginpodcast.com.
Matthew, I do want to thank you personally for agreeing to join us. You've been an inspiration to me as an artist and as a person after this interview and the many conversations we had. I love, and I'm going to think about it a lot more, about this idea between, you know, being the center of attention as an artist, you know, a rock star, so to speak, and then being a part of a cause, which is much more powerful and courageous, I would argue. And it's something that I've never shown or had the guts to do. And just thinking where we're going with so much, including what's going on at Duke and other universities around the United States and so many other places, because of what has evolved. And your songs have been pointing to this for a long time. We shouldn't be surprised.
It's an honor, guys. I haven't done this kind of shit in a long time, and it's I think about things that I've done in different ways now that I've got this, you know, distance from it, and I learn along the way in conversations like this. So awesome. It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
We said goodbye to Matthew, but I don't want to forget to put his plugs back out there. And I will start with the fact that you can find Matthew Grimm, Grimm, and you can find the Hangdogs wherever you stream music. So Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, etc. All their stuff is there. I have the entire library on my Apple Music library, and I recommend you listen to any and all of Matthew's stuff together with the band and solo. You can also find his stuff at matthewgrimm.bandcamp.com. And he is on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Matthew-Grimm. He also, as he says, posts dumb jokes and filthy leftist invective on Blue Sky, which is bsky.app/profile/Grimm Reality. and also on beige.party /@GrimmReality. So look for Matthew's stuff in all those places. For our premiere episode, we are also premiering a brand new segment for Third Song In. We're calling it The Loft of Wisdom. If you want to know why, go listen to the season finale of season 7. But the idea is that we are going to provide a meaningful quote or song lyric or some fucking thing we heard that we thought was awesome. And we're not quite sure if we're going to alternate episodes for season 8 or whether we're both going to provide a quote. But for today and for our premiere, we both have quotes to put up on the Loft of Wisdom.
You got your pen handy? Was it the Sharpies that we used?
Right, the Sharpie.
Virtual Sharpie.
Another good podcast name.
I like that.
All right, I'm going to give you the very first Loft of Wisdom quote for Third Song In.
Okay, thank you. This was harder than I thought. We interviewed Matthew Grimm, obviously, just a few minutes ago. I wanted to quote one of his songs, but then there was something about just the energy he brought and this whole idea of fighting. And he's so excited about some of the songs, most of the songs he recommended. I just decided to go back to an original thought I had, which was a song about fighting. And it's a band that I have to thank Google Supermix for introducing me to. They're called the Bastard Sons, S-U-N-S. And they have a song called Never Say Die. And it's all about fighting. And my favorite lines are, people will disrespect you for the strangest things. They'll hold you underneath their thumb and try to clip your wings. But the only way they win is if you fucking quit. So never give up and don't take no shit. So that's the Bastard Sons from their song, Never Say Die.
I like that. That's very good.
And it's even more, I mean, it's got a little bit of that Irish feel to this song. They bring multiple influences to their music, which I like. But this one's got that very like Irish rock and roll, fuck you attitude to it. So
yeah, I don't even know that band.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before the episode, and I still haven't gotten a chance to listen to the song. So I got to pull it up just in general.
And what is your quote to add to the Loft of Wisdom, Thomas?
So as with you, I had, well, I knew the quote I wanted to use, but I do want to give an honorable mention because in preparing for this episode and interviewing Matthew, I actually I read an interview that a journalist did of Matthew on Substack. And I, before this episode ends, need to give that writer credit, and I didn't put it in the outline. I can't remember who the hell it is. But he quotes Matthew at one point with the following: I can go to the bar and yell at people, but that doesn't help anything. And now after having interviewed him and heard him live, I can hear it in his voice, and it's even a better quote as far as I'm concerned. But yeah. I thought that was a solid honorable mention. But rather than use that and rather than put that up as my inaugural quote for the Loft, I am quoting Bob Dylan from the album Desire, from the song Hurricane, which came out in 1976. If you know that song, it is all about a fighter. It's about a boxer, as a matter of fact. And to me, one of the most memorable Bob Dylan lines, it's just always stuck with me, is, now all the criminals in their coats and their ties are free to drink martinis and watch the sunrise, while Reuben sits like Buddha in a 10-foot cell, an innocent man in a living hell. So I thought that was a good fight song type of quote, only because it's about a guy who not only was a boxer, in his professional life, but then basically fought the law until he was finally released after being in prison for upwards of 20-something years, I think was the final tally. So that's my first contribution to our digital Loft of Wisdom.
I like where we're going with this stuff.
Me too. I got to admit, I've already lined up some quotes. I've heard a couple song lyrics that I jotted in my phone, and I think I lifted something from a book I was reading. So I think we'll be able to do this, and I don't think we'll have to alternate because I have a feeling we'll both have enough to talk about.
And we are going to try to create a space on our website that mimics the original Loft of Wisdom. So it's easy to find these quotes and, choose your favorites. More to
Yep.
come on that one.
That now takes us to staff picks.
Just around the corner from you.
Staff picks is an old segment. It's been around for a while now. It's our opportunity to recommend stuff that is either on the horizon or has just come out. So we each have, I believe, a song to recommend for staff picks this week.
We do.
What's your song?
My song is, I changed it. I love to make you hate my music. And it's honorable mention now because I really feel like I have to go with the one I just found literally seconds before we recorded this segment. But I was going to go with a band called I Prevail, who are sort of loved and hated. They're a metal band that sort of mixes that. I don't know who copied who, to tell you the truth. I'm thinking I Prevail's been around, but like Beartooth, where they got the sort of 90s alternative voice and then the screaming.
I don't like where this is going.
I know. Well, the song that I was going to choose has none of the good voice. It's all screaming, and it's just like I think I've seen it described as closest to deathcore, which is a type of metal. My favorite line, I mean, it was the song I messaged it to you yesterday. It was shit, I don't have it, but it's they have a new lead singer. I think they're trying to come out of the gate super heavy, and they accomplish it with the song called Violent Nature. I would just encourage folks to look it up, but that's not my choice. I'm pulling a full on Tom here by describing my backup choice and my original my true choice. So my true choice, I'm really excited that this band has a new song out. They're called the Honey Dogs. They were big back in the night. Well, big is the wrong word. I loved them. They had a bunch of good pop rock stuff back in the 90s. I think their biggest song was I Miss You, something like that. But lead singer has put out some really strong solo material. They did a really cool concept album called 10,000 Years, which I think I've put some of their stuff on playlists. But they just came out with a new song called Irish Goodbye. It was released on May 19th. So that'll give folks, this will be released in June, but it was released on May 19th. So very, very recently released. Nice upbeat song. During the interview with Matthew, we talked about Irish, rock and fuck you. And well, this song is about the Irish goodbye, which sadly I didn't know what it meant until I looked it up.
I can't believe that.
I know, I can't believe it either. But I and Tom are the kings of the Irish goodbyes.
That's why I can't believe you didn't know what the term meant, because I can remember you just ghosting, at a moment's notice.
So an Irish goodbye is when you just leave an event or a person or something without saying a word. And I am well known for that. And I think Tom is too. So
I am too, for sure.
So I figured it sort of fit in nicely, and it's the Honey Dogs. I'm excited. I hope they come out with a new album. They did release a new song a couple years ago that I think was about Trump, and they didn't release an album then, so we'll see. But Honey Dogs, Irish Goodbye, check it out.
Yeah, I was shocked that they're even still around and putting out music, because it was decades ago that we used to listen to the Honey Dogs. I like that band. I didn't know they had done anything recently. So I have a staff pick as well. It is also a 2025 release, and it is, I got to give props out to my brother, Eric Polachek, who texted me a link to this artist and an EP that he just put out. And I listened through the song he sent was also very good. But as I listened through the rest of the EP, my favorite song, and the one I'm recommending today, is called Year to Be Young, 1994. It's by a guy named Steven Wilson Jr. It's a little closer to kind of classic country, or maybe even closer to current pop country. The guy has a very interesting voice, though, and Year to Be Young 1994 is one of those songs that people come out with that is basically just reminiscing about everything that was going on when you were like in junior high or high school. And so it makes a lot of pop culture references from that time. And I really enjoy the song. I think it's really cool sounding, and I like the lyrics. But at a certain point, I started to get depressed because this guy was reminiscing about how fucking old he was in 1994. And I was like, shit, I was fucking 28. Anyway, it's a great song. I like him a lot. I'm looking forward to listening to some more of his music. And as I said, it kind of leans a little away from my normal Americana, kind of all country stuff. And it's a little more traditional. And I'm a little worried we may just, there may be some songs out there that are just about pickup trucks and hunting dogs. But this one was good, and the EP was really good. So I recommend Stephen Wilson Jr. as my staff pick.
Cool. I looked him up. Did he just sing the national anthem at the NBA? I swear he, I saw something pop up.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I didn't know that. And when Eric sends me stuff, sometimes it's like really hidden gems, and sometimes it's guys that are popular that I just didn't know were popular. And that may be Stephen Wilson Jr.
Actually, I was wrong about the site, but yes, Stephen Wilson Jr. performed the national anthem before the 2025 NFL draft in Green Bay. And there's a video of it out there, and I love his voice.
Yeah, very cool voice. I mean, he doesn't have like that traditional pop country voice in my mind.
Right.
It's more of a throwback, I would say, to some classic country guys, some Merle Haggard-ish kind of stuff. And again, only listened to 2 or 3 songs. Maybe there's 5 on that EP total. And the EP is definitely worth listening to. You should check it out.
First, and an aside, why the fuck are we singing the national anthem before the draft?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't.
The thing has become all the NFL wants now is events. Everything's an event that they make tons of money off of, and so you have to have national anthem before you make a lot of money. All right, that brings us to the core and the one consistent thing we've had from season 1, which is our playlist picks for the season. And these will be the first 2 songs on Third Song in Season 8 playlist. Tom, you let me do the first quote. Why don't you do the first song?
Excellent. I went to my fight song well for this. I kind of held out my favorite fighting words song from the playlist that we made with Matthew, and I am choosing Fuck the Good Old Days by Ike Riley from Because the Angels, which came out in 2021. It is definitely a kind of a protest song. It is definitely we got to stand up and fight for, our ideals kind of thing. Ike Riley's good at those kind of songs. And this is a great one, I think, to both to go along with the theme of Matthew's suggestion and also for the first song for our season 8 playlist.
Nice choice. Love the title and love the song. I went with a song that I am guessing I've mentioned. It's also my favorite fight song. I love the 3 choices I put on the fight song playlist. But I went with Casey Anderson's The Dangerous Ones, and the acoustic version specifically. I wrote a blog about this song where I mistakenly believed that it was written right before the Trump election. In fact, it was written back in 2017. So still a lot to do with the things that we don't like that are going on politically in the world. It's not upbeat and Irish-like, and it's anger, but the anger just is seething through the song. So one of my favorite lines is, "Hey, there's a word for last winter. It's something worse than discontent. 37 years old and staying out of trouble. Staying out of trouble ain't to make my rent. So let it burn, let it burn, let the motherfucker burn. It's election day. They shut the water off last week. I guess it's going to burn either way." I just think he's a great songwriter. He just came out with a new album. I strongly encourage folks to check that one out. So The Dangerous Ones by Casey Anderson.
You sent that to me, a couple of years ago for sure. And I have the studio version of that, weirdly, is on my workout mix. So, so that means I listen to it about 4 or 5 times a week. If I get that far through my workout, I listen to it. And it's a great song, great lyrics. He is a very interesting singer-songwriter.
He is. He's got a bit of a Steve Earle sound. Yeah, early. Steve Earle-ish sound.
Yes, I would agree with that for sure.
And I think he's done enough to distinguish himself, especially with the songwriting. So,
agreed.
All right. We made it to the end of our first episode of season 8.
Congratulations, us.
We only got 9 more episodes to go.
until we do 10 more episodes.
Until we do 10 more episodes.
We've
I
think we've made a solemn vow. We're getting to 100, whether you fuckers are listening to us or not.
We've tried everything possible. Tom's reached out to contacts at our former school. We've contacted other creators, and we're not like big self-promoters, obviously.
Yeah, clearly.
But it doesn't seem to mean a damn thing.
No.
Doesn't do anything. But you know what? Those 30 to 50 people that listen every week, we love you. We appreciate you. Send us ideas for future episodes because we got to keep coming up with ideas. We got to get to 100.
So once again, Chris and I really have to thank Matthew Grimm for appearing on the podcast. We have been fans for literally decades, and it was very cool to talk to him.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matthew, and strongly, strongly encourage you to listen to his music. He's one of the most talented songwriters that we know, and that's why we're so excited to have him on the show. Really encourage you to check out his latest new songs, including In This Ohio Diner.
Third Song In is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Joliet, Illinois, and Madison, Wisconsin. You can email us at thirdsongin@gmail.com. Please send us your questions, your comments, your suggestions for future themes or topics for the podcast, as well as potential future guests. We've gotten a handful of our guests in the last few seasons from recommendations from listeners.
Check out our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. You can link directly to the most recent episodes. There's also a link on the front page to our blogs. Tom and I write a weekly blog about various topics. As I noted, on the As Mentioned page, you'll be able to find information about Matthew, where you can have direct access to his music, his writings, and whatnot.
Please follow us, rate us, and review us. Download our podcast wherever you listen. Give us all your fucking stars, will you? You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. You can also find our playlist on those streaming services. Follow us, follow the playlist, look for the special playlists. Those, as Chris said, will also be on the As Mentioned page. I'm also going to try to put links in the show description on Spotify, etc., so you may be able to click to the special playlist that much quicker.
And if you've made it this far, our next episode will be about action movies. Tom and I are really excited about that one. We're going to have a draft where we fight to pick the best action movies ever.
You've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
In this Ohio diner, kindly locals sip black coffee. Speak in earnest, plain spoken sense bromides. In this Ohio diner, they recall a simpler time when simple folks were simply satisfied in their plain and simple pride. In this Ohio diner, they like football fairs and farm stands, enforced conformity and fall parades. And they long for bygone better days when certain people knew their place and the actual Ku Klux Klan controlled the stage. In this Ohio diner, they forgive a violent coup d'etat attempted to end democracy. Because the men who planned it were white and rich and racist, which is what folks in this diner think strong leadership should be. In this Ohio diner, they share stories about Haitians eating cats and dogs, none of which are true. But it's enough to justify Gestapo roving nationwide, disappearing folks who don't look like they do. In this Ohio diner, the New York Times will tell you preposterous Facebook memes are just as valid as the truth. While watching actual monsters as folksy kind and white, we dissemble as the old republic dies. fiat and decree. It's a gent to rid the nation of outsiders and ideas tainting the pure-blooded utopia it used to be. And every white person is free to bow and fealty to his triumphal will to dictate canon truth. And in this Ohio diner, they'll tell you they're not Nazis, though these are the exact things Nazis do. In this Ohio diner, the New York Times will tell you preposterous Facebook memes are just as valid as the truth. Saying watching actual monsters, it's folksy, kind, and wise. We dissemble as the old republic dies. We dissemble as the old